I've been a journalist for almost 30 years, running several news agencies that have produced hundreds of thousands of published news stories. Our content has probably been used at some stage in all major and most minor newspapers and broadcasters you can think of. The Times, Telegraph, BBC, Guardian, The Sun or the Daily Mail are just a small selection of the hundreds I've worked for directly and the thousands that have taken our content from syndication partners. In that time, we've sold viral news to fund serious investigations, seeking out injustice and dragging it into the media spotlight. I could pick up the phone to some of the world's biggest media brands, and the next week, the story would appear in front of millions. Our story on the trafficking in women, where my reporters went undercover across Europe, won a Paul Foot Award, arguably the highest honour in British journalism's Oscars. A Nazi doctor who murdered children and experimented on their bodies was dragged into court and stripped of his medals and his honours as a result of our reporting. Hundreds of millions of pounds were recovered from pyramid scheme fraudster Bernie Madoff as a result of an investigation I did into his stolen millions. Likewise, the unsung heroes that might otherwise have gone unnoticed were also put under the spotlight, providing an inspiration to us all. People like the Viennese taxi driver Hannes Urban that collected thousands of euros for charities from people he ferried around the city. Or those like a man illegally imprisoned in China whose manacles grew into his skin. Or the Romanian woman whose disabled daughter was returned decades after she'd been told that she'd died. In these cases and many others, our reporting raised support and on occasion funds to change their lives. But beyond money, the one thing the victims who we reported on wanted was to be heard. You would think that as a result of all this, when I was suddenly accused of running a global fake news factory by the website BuzzFeed, more famous for top 10 listicles, that I would have found it easy to tell my story. I mean, the idea that nobody other than BuzzFeed had noticed over the decades is laughable, right? But when cancelled by such a high-profile opponent, I found for the first time what it was like to have no voice. Our access to the media was based on credibility. Call that into question, and that access vanishes. Sure, we could still do the viral stories, and there was some publicity by one media news site to our cause, which was called the Press Gazette. But the heart of our agency was about making a difference with serious journalism, and that vanished overnight. Those accusations were, for me, the beginning of my investigation into my accusers. It opened my eyes to just how degraded the media landscape had become and set me looking for new ways to change it. Why do that? For more than 20 years, I've been in charge of special projects at a respected association of newswire agencies like mine. It's called NAPA, and it was my job to find a way to make our business model sustainable and scalable. As I investigated the background in what happened to me and the motivation behind those involved, I discovered a whole range of problems I wasn't aware of. Based on that, I was able to come up with strategies to tackle them. Problems like the fact that we've lost advertising revenue to social media, advertising that once paid for the journalism we do. Or the fact that AI is now doing what journalists traditionally did, not because it's better, but because it costs next to nothing. And what little money does come in is being siphoned off to pay investors instead of the journalists that are doing the work. Vast areas of news are now like black holes with no coverage for local areas or special interest groups. And finally, the separation between advertising and editorial has become decimated to the point where nobody can tell anymore what's what. Is this an advert or is it an independent, balanced news story? How do you tell? My new book about the news industry is not only a blow-by-blow account of my battle with BuzzFeed, but also an analysis of these and other problems. The solutions I found were forged in the fires of the real-world actions I took to keep my agencies in business. By contrast, my accusers at BuzzFeed News, having squandered $1.7 billion in valuation, have long since closed and no longer exist. So what are those solutions? Funding. First of all, to deal with the issue of making sure the hard work of the journalists is paid for, our company is the world's first media community interest company, where the purpose of our organisation is journalism, not profit. Like a not-for-profit, it's a social media enterprise where our main mission is to make a difference by funding truly independent journalism. This is in keeping with the traditional values of decentralisation and blockchain, which puts community before capital and as a result, bringing the two together is a logical next step. Crypto. We were one of the first agencies to ever write about blockchain in the mainstream press, covering the story on 22nd of May 2010 when 2 large pizzas were sold for 10,000 Bitcoin. This event, known as Bitcoin Pizza Day, spread around the world after we wrote about it and distributed it to the mainstream media. Our latest venture into this world is with our Newshound coin that we've created to fund independent journalism and make it sustainable long into the future. Created on the Solana blockchain, we chose our trademarked NewsX Newshound and gave it the purpose of funding journalism. It's a fully decentralised launch, with NewsX taking just 3 million out of a total of 33 million coins. These will be used for the purpose of paying journalists and bringing major news organisations on board. The rest of the 30 million coins will be sold on a decentralised exchange for those who want to take part. The coin has the potential not just to present a vital source of funding for independent news journalism, it also has the potential to become incredibly valuable over time, meaning those who are paid with it can be paid decent salaries just like other professionals. That'll mean higher quality reporting and more breaking news stories in a world where the news landscape has suffered from a lack of investment. And we won't just cover the major news stories, we'll also tackle more local stories and specialist subjects. Utility. We charge for editorial services in Newshound coins too, meaning it has a sustainable utility. This isn't a pie-in-the-sky idea, it's simply restarting something that our agency did almost 2 decades ago, whereby we wrote news stories in exchange for advertising credits and then used those to buy up ads in the mainstream press. That project earned tens of thousands in these credits from national newspapers like the Daily Star and the Daily Express in the early 2000s, sadly before the advent of ad exchanges and long before crypto became mainstream. We've taken that model now and applied it to a coin utility. Working with the same big-name publishers, we'll offer them a similar deal so that Newshound can be used to purchase ads in their titles. We, in turn, give them stories, and this will mean continuing utility for Newshound. We offer those who want to get their message out to the broadest possible audience the chance to do so, while being paid in Newshound coin. At the same time, the high profile of our stories will keep Newshound firmly front and centre of the mainstream press. Profile. The only things that we have to worry about are reputation and quality reporting. We don't have the cost of maintaining vast circulation networks of newspapers or magazine partners, or the high-tech broadcasting costs of radio and TV partners. We have access to this vast network for free, and the only thing we need to worry about is making sure we produce independent, fair and balanced reporting. Because we have a broad spectrum of media covering all different formats and from different angles, every story has a potential of finding a place to be published. In summary, Newshound is a meme coin, but with a crucial and major advantage that you won't find in any other cryptocurrency, which is that it's actually used to serve and sustain journalism. It's a service that is rapidly being lost, and its success will create future successes with every single story published by NewsX Media. How? NewsX's editorial strategy works by creating news communities to replace the lost network of local publications and less well covered, but equally important, the specialist magazine market. It's decentralised, with the content distributed to a network of global media partners covering a vast spectrum of interests and regions. It has the potential for an almost infinite amount of content and an almost infinite amount of publishing opportunities. Being decentralised, there'll always be someone, somewhere, prepared to write the story those in power don't want you to see. And there'll always be somebody prepared to publish it if it's guaranteed by the NewsX brand. So if you want to be a part of this, join our Telegram channel and watch out for the launch of Newshound Memecoin in the coming weeks. Thanks for listening, and as a footnote, if you're a journalist that wants to work with us and gain access to the media network we're building for NewsX, then you need to visit our webpage and sign up.